No need to go far and wide. Let Hometown provide. Hometown Trophies and Embroidery in Lena can help turn your ideas into reality. From awards, engraving, and gifts to custom apparel and business accessories, they have you covered. Visit them today or give them a call at 815-369-9185. That's Hometown Trophies Embroidery. Let your vision become their masterpiece.
When it comes to planning for your future, you want someone you can trust. At Prairie State Investments, Mark Pfeiffer is here to help you build a plan that fits your life, your family, and your goals. Whether it's retirement, college savings, or investing wisely for tomorrow, Mark has the knowledge and local commitment to guide you every step of the way. Don't leave your future up to chance. Call Mark Pfeiffer at Prairie State Investments today at 815-668-8131 and start investing with confidence.
Welcome to NUIC All Access, joined by Jay Doyle and Joe Merdian. I'm your host, Kyle Kampmier. Today, we feature two guests from the three-time state champion Amboy Clippers. Jay, introduce our guest to us today.
All right, today's guests are Amboy Clipper head coach Scott Payne and all-state wide receiver defensive back Cody Winn. Let's take a look at what they've accomplished. 5 consecutive semifinal appearances, 4 consecutive state game appearances, 3 consecutive state titles, a 17-2 playoff record in I-8FA setting, a new record for most wins, and a 37-2 record over the past 3 seasons.
Those are some pretty impressive numbers there, guys. I don't think we've seen a whole lot of teams go 37-2 over a 3-season period. Definitely not in I-8FA, but man, what you guys are doing is unbelievable.
Thank you. Like I've always said, all credit to the kids. They're the ones put in the work and, work hard and practice every day. And the kids deserve all the credit. It's when you have a great group of kids like we've had the last 3 or 4 years, it makes coaching really fun. And I've just been blessed to have type of kids like that, type of kids like Cody Winn, who's here with us today.
Cody, when you see those numbers or hear those numbers, what do you look at? What do you think about over the course of the past 4 years that you've been part of the Clipper program?
Oh, it's crazy. I mean, to only lose 2 games as a starter, I mean, can't really ask for anything more. And I just think about all the different groups we've had and all the different teams, and it's just all the memories we've made.
That's what it's all about right there. Coach, when you took over, numbers in the program were low. The program was still trying to find some stability. Coach Jones had just retired as well from having a long tenured career at Amboy, which also led from him taking over for Coach Wisgowski, who had an unbelievable record at Amboy as well. What was the first standard that you set out that began shifting the direction of the Clipper program?
Well, first off, that's 2 tough guys to follow right there, but 2 great coaches. But, the first standard was accountability. There in about 17 and 18, 19, kids just weren't showing up in the summer to do our summer workout programs. And kids actually weren't showing up to practice. They were coming up with every excuse why they couldn't come to practice and things like that. And when I got the job, I knew that was the first thing we're going to have to change was accountability among the kids. And so when I met with the assistant coaches, I said, guys, here's what we got to do. We might have a kid who's really good and another kid who's not as good, but this kid that's not as good is showing up all the time. He's going to get to play over the other kid, and we're going to have to just take our lumps, take our beatings for a little bit until we get into these kids' mind that, hey, we have to be there. We have to lift. We have to show up to practice. We have to practice hard. And, that was the biggest thing was accountability amongst the kids. And, it was a little rough there for the first year, but, it was all worth it to get where we're at now. And the kids really understood once we started doing that, like, hey, we got to be here. We got to show up and we got to do what the coaches asked us to do. And, and another, the biggest thing was the weight room. I told the kids first meeting, in order to win in the season, we got to start winning in the weight room in the off season. And they listened, they understood that, and they get in that weight room and, we write down the workouts on the board and they just do it. And we don't have to hound them to keep doing it or this or that. And, like I said, when you have a great group of kids coming through that are willing to put in the time and the effort and the work, it makes coaching so much more fun. And I love it. I love every day going there. And, the kids have, really set the standard to where this program is right now.
Yeah, I have to laugh every time when you say that. I had to chuckle. I think there should be a spot where coaches can go for a book at some point of all the excuses of why someone didn't make a practice.
Oh, I got a lot. Trust me, I've heard just when you think you've heard them all, you hear
Yep.
about 10 more, and you're like, oh boy, that's a new one to me, But yeah, you're right though. There should be a book. I wonder how many it would add up to excuses in the end.
Well, I don't know. A lot of people have a lot of grandmas that pass away, so I don't know.
You're absolutely right. Yes, you are.
And how do you question it, right? How do you question it? You're a jerk if you do. But
Yeah, you can. You got to say, okay, I'm sorry for your
that's
loss,
like your
and
eighth grandma. Sorry, you've had a rough year.
yeah.
Cody, question for you. Freshman year, Amboy came off a semifinal run and made its first title appearance. What did stepping into a rising program do for your expectations right away coming in from there?
Well, it shot my expectations through the roof. Freshman year after we lost, I mean, we only lost one senior. So I knew we were going to have a really good group coming back. And then after we won that second year, Coach Payne, made it clear to us that that was the standard from now on. And, we don't expect anything short of 13 game seasons.
Yeah, Coach Payne, Amboy had some years there where they struggled in 11 man. The move to 8 man really changed everything. What convinced you and your staff and your school board and your administration that transition was necessary, not just a temporary solution?
We actually, our athletic director, George Schwamberger, started talking about it. I think it was either 2017 or 18. And because our numbers were just really low, I think we had at that point 20, 23 total kids throughout the program. We were playing freshmen at the varsity who weren't ready to play. And looking ahead at our class sizes, we were seeing how much smaller our class sizes were going to be down the road. So, we had the big conversation, and we all just kind of came to the point, if we want this program to keep going and kids to be able to still be able to play football in Amboy, we're going to have to make this move, and I think it was the smartest move for us to make. I mean, like you said, you can't roll into any 11-man game with 20 to 25 kids on your roster, especially if 7 of them are freshmen. Because of those freshmen, how many are actually ready to play varsity, honestly. And, it's just a move we had to make, especially with our class sizes coming up. Here in the future, we're going to only have about 8-10 boys out per class. So, it's just, and plus it's a safety thing for the kids too, because you could roll up against some really good teams in 1A and 2A that are, just, really big and physical. And, it was just a move we had to make. And it was a great move. Coach Mr. Schwamberger did a great job of doing his homework on this. And he talked to Ted Alston a lot at that time. And I think Ted even came down to our school board meeting when we were going to make the transition to talk to him about it and explain to him about it. And, Ted did a great job of doing that. So Ted helped us out get to the 8-man game here in Amboy. And it was just a smart move by us. And there's no regrets, obviously, at all for it.
Obviously, there's a lot of criticism coming with the amount of success that you guys have had. Have you guys had any conversations about what the numbers look like coming up, a move back to 11 man, or has that really been more of a year-to-year thing, and or something that you just don't see happening right now?
I don't see it happening. My son's in 8th grade, so he'll be a freshman next year. And in his class, he had 10 boys out, for football. And that's going to go for a JV. That's going to go with the 7 freshmen that we have out this year. So that's 17 kids. You can't play an 11-man game with that number. We are where we need to be right now. And it's 8-man. And I understand the criticism. I get it. People are going to criticize you when you've had the success that we have had the last 4 or 5 years. It just comes with it, and it's the same way in 11-man. Teams that are very successful, they get criticized too at 1A, 2A, 3A, all the way up. It just comes with the territory. And I just, I always tell our kids and my assistant coaches, because I'm not on any social media at all. I'm not going to do that. But my assistant coaches are, and I always tell them, I go, you guys need to get off or just not read that stuff or whatever. But, it's just, it comes with the success that we've had. And I always tell our kids, you got to block the outside noise and we got to concentrate on what we can control here. And, if you're getting criticized like that, that means you're doing something right in your program.
I mean, I love talking to Coach Shrimplin and Powers and Jones, though. I mean, they're great dudes.
Yeah, Powers is one of the biggest ones on social media. He's always telling me stuff. I just look at him like, Tyson, you need to take a break or something. Come on.
He's passionate, Coach.
He is. He's a very passionate guy.
I just see him with about 4 monster drinks about 1 a.m, pounding the keyboard, getting all pissed about something.
He has one right before practice every day, and you can always tell when that thing kicks in when we get out on the field. So, can't you, Cody?
Yeah.
So, Cody, question for you then, as a player, what did you view going from 11-man to 8-man? Was there any change, or did you see that as a down? Some people view it as a downgrade. Did you as a player view it as that?
Right. So when I came in freshman year, I didn't really know what to expect because I've been playing 11-man my whole life. But I feel like first week of practice, once we got the pads on, I mean, it was just football at the end of the day. It was like 2 less holes for the running backs to run through on offense and a couple less guys you got to worry about on defense. So, I mean, it was a little change. I mean, to have less guys on the field, play on a little smaller field, but it's just football, and I don't see it as a downgrade at all. I really don't feel the difference now that I've played 4 years of it.
Hey, Cody, another question for you. What Kyle just talked to Coach Payne about, kind of some of the outside noise and the numbers and 11-man versus 8-man. As one of the leaders of this Amboy team the last couple of years, do the players? I'm sure you guys see some of the stuff on social media. How are you guys able to block out some of that outside noise of people talking about 11-man versus 8-man and that sort of thing?
Right. Yeah, I mean, Coach Payne does a good job telling us to just ignore it. Us as players, we have no control over it. We just want to play football. We
Right.
don't care if it's 11-man, 8-man, 5-man. We just want to line up and play. So, I think because of our success, we've got a little backlash, and because of our numbers. But if we weren't winning, nobody would be talking about it.
Well, that's just it. And you shouldn't let the success deter what the naysayers think either, because like I've talked to Coach Payne in private, and honestly, when you take a look at your program and where you're at and where you came from, it's like I told Coach Payne, you guys are right where you need to be at the moment, and I agree with that assessment.
Right.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I always look at it this way. People who say, they always want to find an excuse why you're successful instead of,
Right.
they don't know what goes on inside our program, and they don't know how hard our players work at this. This isn't just our kids show up in June. Oh, okay, we're ready to start. No, they start in January in the weight room. That's kind of like our starting date is January. And, and if anybody who wants to see this, they're more than welcome to come to Amboy, and I'll walk them through everything. I have no problems with that. And like I said, our kids work so hard. They work so hard in the weight room, and they work hard in practice. And, and that's why we have been so successful, is because of the kids' hard work and dedication.
So, Coach, the run to 3 straight titles didn't come without seeing some adversity. What was the toughest point this season where you felt leadership mattered more than schemes?
Week 1, we came into the season, obviously, ranked number 1 in your poll. And, when we lost to Milledgeville, the kids, they were all really down on themselves after that game. It was a tough game, and, Milledgeville came to Amboy and took it to us. They just flat out beat us. And, week 1, right off the bat, was a lot of adversity. And I told the kids after the game, you guys, yes, it's tough to lose this game. I understand that, but there's so much football left to be played, and so much more can happen. I said tomorrow, we just got to get back. We got to watch the film, see the mistakes we made, and get back to work and fix it. We're gonna have plenty of time to fix whatever problems we have. And that was the biggest adversity, was week 1, because that week 1 game, everyone's always hyped up. First game, got all the expectations. Everyone's talking about everything, and I think our kids kind of, after that game, were thinking, having a little doubt maybe in their mind. And our senior group, I met with our seniors and our captains that next week, and to get the vibe of the team and see how things were going. And we had what was it, Cody, a 20-minute conversation on all this in the office. And I said, you guys just need to step up and be leaders and lead these guys through this time. I said, we will be absolutely fine. Things, end of the year, this loss, you guys are going to look back and think, oh, that was probably one of the best things for us. And it was, it kind of brought us back down to earth a little bit, and it made us a better football team for it. And, these guys did a great job of being leaders throughout the year. especially after that week 1 loss. So that first week was the biggest, I think, adversity that hit our team this year.
Cody, to me, it's just from an outsider's view, you guys faced some adversity in that state championship game. Cody, you guys were down 14-0 there against Polo. Was there ever any panic there in that Amboy sideline or in the huddle? Did you guys just say, "All right, guys, let's just go. Let's just focus on the next play"? What was kind of the mindset there when Polo went up 14-0 in that championship game?
Well, it wasn't a panic. I mean, we knew we were playing bad football, especially on the defensive side. Like that's just not us. Most of the times we don't even allow 14 points in a game. So we knew
Right.
there was a problem. Coach Payne huddled us up, told us to, we just had to get our heads straight. And yeah, I don't think there was any panic. It was just like we knew, like, if we wanted to stay in the game, the change had to happen then.
Cody, what did you do after that? We talk about the Milledgeville game and a turning point, though it was week 1, right? What did you do personally to elevate you and your team's football after that game?
Yeah, I think it was just getting back to work. We knew we had, maybe a lesser schedule after Milledgeville. Milledgeville's a hard team to beat, any week, but especially week 1 because you never know what they're going to come out in. So personally, it was just about laying low and, racking up some wins in the conference and getting the confidence back in the team after the week 1 loss. And once we got rolling and got a couple road wins in the conference, I think, that really elevated the team and got the morale back up after the loss.
Yeah, Coach, you've coached Cody now for 4 years. He was first team All-Star this year, wide receiver, defensive back. Maybe talk about what part of his game took the biggest leap this season and maybe even from, say, his freshman year to his senior year.
You know, one of the biggest things I noticed this year was his confidence level went really high. Cody's always been a confidence kid, but it just seemed like this year he kind of stepped in and knew, all right, this is my year, because, before we got on, I was, telling Kyle, this is the first year Cody's got to play offense for us, because he's had so many guys in front of him the last 2 years. He has had the opportunity to get on the field. And, in the summer, we were trying to find somebody to play that tight end spot for us, and Coach Powers goes, well, let's just put Cody Winn there, see what he can do. And, it was a great move by Coach Powers, a great decision by him. And, I think his confidence this year really showed out more. He was more confident this year than I've ever seen him in the last 3 years, especially defensively. Playing DB and 8-man is no easy task.
Right.
You're on an island all by yourself, whether it's a pass or run. It is. And I always say I have nothing but respect for DBs, and I never yell at them during games because I'm like, you guys got the toughest job on the defense. And it just seemed like this year, whether it was a run or a pass towards Cody, he had 100% confidence he was going to make that play. And, and I'm just, so proud of the player he turned into and the young man he's turning into.
So, Cody, first question, what part of football do you like most, the offensive side or the defensive side?
I got to go with defense. I mean, there's just, making a big hit, making a big play, getting an interception. I think I value interceptions more than touchdowns. And yeah, defense, it's just fun.
See, I knew I liked you for a reason.
You got to be on offense. You got to score them tutties. That's where it's all about.
So, Cody, what part of the preparation allowed you to maintain or develop an all-state standard every week?
Right. So I just knew, my senior year, I had to be a leader and I had to be the best player I could be. It wasn't really about, the all-state nod, that was great. That just came with the hard work. You know what I'm saying? It was more about just being the best player I could be and making an impact on the field any way I could, whether it was run blocking or catching a pass, making a big play on defense. So yeah, it wasn't so much about, being an all-stater, but just playing to my best ability to help the team.
Very good.
So, Coach, now we can talk about moving into 2026 a little bit. You returned 6 starters, 2 all-staters. The backfield that was one of the best in I8FA. How do you work on expectation in the locker room moving forward?
We'll have this meeting in January because, right now I always encourage my players to play basketball, go off of wrestling, play other sports. Don't just concentrate on football. But we'll have this meeting in January, and the message is always the same. Guys, whatever happened last year happened, and right now we got to get back to work. The expectation is, when the schedule comes out, and I think it comes out end of January and February, is whoever our week 1 opponent is, that's who we're concentrating on. We have a motto that, we have here, and it's always to go 1-0 every week, and it's just to concentrate on our opponent for that week. And, we have a saying painted on our locker room wall that says a ship doesn't sail on yesterday's wind. So, and I seen that, and I'm like, I got to paint that on the locker room. It has so much, especially a ship, Clippers. Come on now. It's perfect for us.
Now, how do you
And,
how do you spell it?
and-
Is it WIND or WIN?
well, right now it's WIND. And, so the message is don't worry about last year. We got to move forward.
Hey, Cody, I know you'll be moving on here, but looking at the returning group of the Clippers, what qualities do the guys that coming back do you see that will keep this Amboy standard in place for next year and years to come? What qualities do these guys have that you really like, and you'll be leaving this Amboy in good terms here?
Well, physically, I think they have everything they need. I think they return on size, speed. We got the backfield, still got a couple guys up front. But a big thing I think the return is leadership. 3 of our captains last year were juniors, Caden Heath, Jose Lopez, and Trevor Stenzel. And especially Jose Lopez and Trevor Stenzel, those are big vocal leaders as well. I felt they lifted some weight off my shoulders this year. Like I didn't really have to say much all the time because those guys were always talking and getting the guys riled up. So I think that from the biggest thing that they're returning this year is leadership.
So, Coach, every title team has a moment where it separates itself. What was that moment for this year's group?
Well, there was actually a couple of moments. The first one was we were going down to play Pawnee in the playoffs, and there was a couple things said throughout the week by them towards us on social media, of course. And, and it kind of just rubbed me the wrong way a little bit. So the kids knew about it, and I didn't know anything about this till the day we were leaving, and we were waiting for the bus to get there, and they all came dressed in a shirt and tie, and they were just like, this is a business trip, bottom line. And I looked at, I can't remember if it was Shrimplin or Powers, and I asked them, and that's what they told me. The kids all wanted to wear shirt and ties because this is a business trip, and they weren't very happy with what Pawnee, some of the things some people from Pawnee had to say about us. So I'm like, all right, these guys are locked in, they're focused, they're ready. So that was the one thing that I saw, and then after that game, that we were on our way home, and we got the word, obviously we're playing Milledgeville, and all the kids went absolutely nuts on the bus ride home. And I looked at Powers and I go, they all wanted Milledgeville again, didn't they? And he goes, absolutely, they did. So, and and the rest of the ride, I was like, all right, I'm a little happy now because these guys were already on a Saturday, and we haven't even watched any film or done anything to get ready for them yet. And, it's just that whole day was just like a total switch in these guys, and it was all business after that.
I need to get on the web and find out what these Pawnee people said about you.
Well,
who finds that stuff, Cody?
Who do you think finds it?
Well,
Tyson.
Yeah, he's on the dark web at night trying to find stuff.
Hey, Coach Payne, do we even know if it was true, or was Powers just making it up to motivate your kids even more?
It could have been. I don't know. I mean, who knows? You never know with him. That's the thing. It's funny. I'll come in the locker room on a Monday, and there's, he'll have papers hanging up all over the locker room where he printed off social media, people saying this and that, and I'm just like, man, how do you find the time to find all this stuff? Like, I mean, there was one week what Cody will agree with me, our whole wall was just covered with papers, the sayings, and people saying this and that, and I'm just like, school's going to run out of paper because of you. You're printing off so many things.
He's probably checking out channel 1450 or, IL Sports Wire just started up this year, and they've been covering the Pawnee South Fork area pretty hard, which is great for them as well.
Yeah.
But he's probably been checking those sites out, seeing what people are saying.
Yeah, he probably has been. Who knows what sites he's on to find this stuff. And his dad probably helps him do it. If anybody knows his dad's pretty much the same way.
God, we gotta get Coach Powers on here sometime.
Hey, Cody, in that championship game, what play or turning point told you guys that the championship really wasn't slipping away? Was there a certain play that kind of changed the whole game for you guys?
Yeah. Jose's first touchdown in the second quarter, I think that got us going, letting us know everything was gonna be right, and then I got a chance to get in the end zone right before halftime. But I think the biggest turning point was halftime when we made our adjustments because we knew what was wrong. Coach Power saw it all. He pulled us all together in the locker room, drew it up on the whiteboard what we were gonna change, and I knew from then on we were gonna be all right.
So there was a series of plays, Cody, ahead of you scoring that touchdown where I felt like Polo was going to shut the door and close you guys out going into halftime to take that 14 to 8 lead into half. What made you guys feel that you were going to get that last score? And obviously, you had a little bit like a 7-yard route there where you're able to come back to the ball, catch it, and then turn to your left and head into the end zone. What made you feel that you guys were going to score there before half with time folding out?
Well, I think the biggest part of that drive was that stop we got on defense. I don't know if it was 4th and 1 or I know it was 4th and short. And I think that was the biggest momentum thing. And then I knew we were going to go to our no huddle because that's just what we do. We practice that all year for games like this. And once Jose was able to break off a couple runs, I knew it was going to open up the play action pass. And I was able to squeeze under the referee on that touchdown pass. And it freed me up to get open.
Yeah.
And once I caught it,
That
I
was
knew I
nice.
was right there.
So it's kind of funny because you guys were like running a crossing pattern, and from the booth I was like, oh God, there goes Cody. I saw it right then and there. I'm like, he's gonna score on this.
Yeah, when we get close to the red zone like that, I saw where the referee was lined up at, and coach never tells me to do it, but like, if he's there, why not use him?
Well, that's just it. I was like, my defensive thought process was like, I'm sitting there like I'm on Polo's sideline, like, oh my God, there goes Winn. There he goes. You got to get him. And all of a sudden, you're catching it, turning back against the grain, going in for the score. That was huge because obviously you guys scored 2 touchdowns in like the last 5.5 minutes to tie it up going into halftime for sure.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that was absolutely huge.
Hey guys, I guess this could be a question for both of you here, but that semifinal game, the Millersville game, was just such a huge game, a lot of hype around it. It was a Saturday afternoon game. And then you got the short turnaround. You're playing Polo Friday night. Like, what was kind of the message there, Coach? I mean, you want to be excited about the win against Millersville, obviously, but yet you want to start preparing for Polo. How did you kind of navigate that whole situation there?
Well, after the game, I told the kids, enjoy it the rest of the day and tonight, but tomorrow morning we're on to the state. We kind of had a idea it was going to be Polo, to be honest with you, because I've seen South Fork play and I've seen Polo play on film, and if I was a picking that week, I was going to pick Polo to win, just by watching the film. I told them, hey, let's enjoy it, but you know what? We still have the bigger picture ahead of us, our bigger goal ahead of us, and we got to concentrate on that. And and that's what they did. Sunday was all once Sunday morning we all woke up, it was all Polo. The kids really got focused and centered that Monday when they came in to the locker room and we were watching film and stuff like that. And the thing is, I look back now, you couldn't think of 2 better opponents to play in the semis and in the state championship as Millersville and Polo. That's one way to go out there and really earn the state championship is playing those 2 teams and those 2 programs. And, as exciting as it was, and I know the kids were excited to beat Millersville, it was, kind of hard for me to try to bring them back down a little bit, but they did. They came back down and they understood that the bigger picture was ahead of us in the following week.
Well, I tried to warn the state the whole year that it was coming down to the 3 NUIC powers, but everybody wanted to sit there and backlash me the whole year. So in a way, I was kind of glad you guys, the 3 of you, all stood out the way that you did, because that was a lot of fun for my side of it, of course. But yeah, no, that was you're right. I mean, you guys, me and Jay had talked about it too. I mean, there was the top 3, and then there was another section where we definitely saw a lot more parity. And then, which is good for the game. Obviously, we're definitely starting to see growth in the 8-man game, but there's still that other level that has to get to where you, Polo, and Milledgeville all are at right now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And like you said, a lot of people want to say things and this and that, and about the north south stuff. And us coaches, we don't get into that. We don't get into north south things. And like I said, I want.
Not all of you.
I just watched film on South Fork and I watched film on Polo, and I just, like I said, I just felt Polo was a better football team. Not taking anything away from South Fork and what they accomplished this year. George Bailey, obviously a great football player, and I just, personally felt as a team Polo was better. And if I was wrong, I was wrong. But like I said, I just watched the film and just felt Polo was a better football team than South Fork.
So, Coach, we talked about the coaches before you, and now you've had your time to put your mark on your program. What do you feel Amboy football stands for today?
Well, that I feel that Amboy football stands for hard work, dedication, and accountability amongst the kids. And most importantly, the wins and everything is great, but at the end of the day, my job is to teach these kids how to be good sons, husbands, fathers, and things like that. To go out in the community and represent the community, and be respectful in the community. There's, I've seen some former players of mine who have gone out and gotten really great jobs, have families, and I'm so happy for them. And because I want to feel that I had a little bit to do with that. Maybe I didn't. I don't know. But but yeah, at the end of the day, it's about getting these young men ready to go out in the real world and um, work wherever they're going to work and do whatever they're going to do, and show up on time to your job, be a good husband, be a good father. And at the end of the day, that's really what this is all about. And the championships and the wins and all that are great to go along with it. But like I said, at the end of the day, that's really what I feel this is all about at the end of the day.
Hey, Cody, you're one of 7 seniors, leaving behind a run of 3 state titles and the runner-up. What does that legacy, when you hear that, what does that mean to you personally?
I mean, it means everything, like when you're a little kid growing up, all you want to do is win the state championship for your hometown. I mean, there's nothing better than that. And, to have the opportunity to go there 4 times and win it 3 times, I mean, that means everything to me and the whole senior class. When we were growing up in middle school, we always joked about it, like how we were going to win state and all that. And like to actually see it, come into fruition and us actually be able to do it 3 times, I mean, it means everything.
I think one of the coolest things I see, and of course, it probably pisses other people off, to be honest, but when you guys enter the field the way that you guys do, and I think especially at Monmouth, the way that you guys enter the field there, it's just really cool. And then, of course, your fans got the air drills out there.
Yeah.
It's loud, it's obnoxious, but I don't know what it is, but that's the stuff I love it, and I feed off of it, and I think it's just really cool that the buy-in and the support that you guys have really gained over the last 5 years.
Oh yeah, I agree. It is a neat thing, and you're right. It probably does piss off the team we're playing a lot, but that kind of just started on its own. Our first year at 8-man, we made that playoff run. After we beat Akron, we came home to play Milledgeville. That's when it started. It was that game, because we always, like I said, warm up on the opposite side of the school, and we come walk around that corner. And that first game, we had all of our fans lined up doing all that stuff, and I was like, wow, this is kind of neat. It's and ever since then, it's just that's just what our fans do, and I think it's great. Like you said, the fans get out there, they're excited, they got the air horns going, and they're playing music, and I think the kids, I pretty sure the kids love it too. Walking through that tunnel, and and it is really really great to be able to be a part of that. And down at Monmouth, my brother who does the stats, he always says how cool it is when we come walking around up that hill and we come walking out of the dark and right into that tunnel. He goes, that's my brother every year has said that's one of the coolest things he's seen. So I totally agree. It is a pretty neat thing that our fans do that every game.
Yeah, I had a new correspondent that kind of joined myself and Greg and Mitch with View from the West, and Zachary Shimon, and he came down to the 8-man game with us and did all of our sideline stuff for us collaboratively. And I told him, I said, wait until Amboy takes the field. I said, you're gonna love it. I said, this place is gonna go nuts. You guys did not disappoint. I could hear it from the press box, and I didn't get to see it before the game like I normally do because I was up there because it was raining and cold. Taking a look, we're gonna pull up your state championship ring here. Taking a look at this thing, obviously this is something a lot of kids like to have once they get to that state championship level. And last year at this time when we had you on the show, Coach, we talked about how that A is there and what it represents, and we told you if you ever got rid of it that you're probably going to hear about it, and you agreed at the same time that A can't go anywhere. It's just symbolic to what Amboy is. You have it here on last year's state championship ring. Who goes through and starts the design process on these things?
I let the captains do it. Actually, I was going to text Cody. We're meeting Tuesday to design this year's. But we meet with the guys, the Midwest guys from Wisconsin. They come down to our school, and I just, they show us the rings, and I look at the captains. I said, you guys do whatever you want to the rings. You design them. You guys earned them. You guys did it. Not, So last year, our captains, it was Eddie, Quinn, and Merriman, and there was one more. I'm probably going to get in trouble for not remembering his name. But, they designed this one, and I think it was Quinn Leffelman says, we got to have the A right on the top of the ring, right in the middle. And I just kind of smiled a little bit, and I thought about what we talked about. I'm like, that's perfect right there. You got to have the A on there.
Yeah. And of course, leave it to Quinn to do that, too.
Oh, yeah. Of course, Quinn.
I saw him at the first game of the year. And of course, we talked a little bit, and I said, how's everything going? He goes, oh, it's going really good. I said, must be fun to be able to get out there and just be able to watch. He goes, oh, I'm on Chain Gang now.
Yeah, he wanted to get as close to it as he could. So he told George he'd do whatever he wanted him to do on the Chain Gang.
No, it's really cool. I was curious if you guys had anything with the Clipper ship on it as well, because I think that would look cool. But no, this one looks.
Kyle, maybe you should show up Tuesday. Kyle's going to show up Tuesday. Maybe give some options. I like the ship look. Then you could put a ship with an A and the. You can work that all together.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, maybe we'll try that on Tuesday, Cody. You guys try to fit that in there somewhere.
All right, we will.
Yeah, that looks really sharp, though. I think it's cool because, like we said, the A is just so symbolic to what Amboy history is. But that Clipper sail, I mean, not many people have that look either. You got two unique looks there.
Yeah, we're pretty proud of the both of them, and we'll figure out a way to get that Clipper ship on there for you, Jay. We'll figure a way out.
I like it. I like it.
Hey, Coach, for small schools kind of fighting the same participation battles that Amboy once faced, what's the biggest lesson that some of these schools could take from what Amboy's been able to do here the last 4 or 5 years?
The thing is, I understand, some of these schools that are fighting the battle is, they've been 11-man their whole history, and they look at 8-man like, we don't want to take a step down. It's not a step down. It's not at all. I think you just need to realize that what would you rather have? Would you rather have your high school kids being successful and having a chance every Friday night to win a game? Or would you rather stay at 11-man and going into a game knowing that, we have a good possibility to lose by 40 or 50 just because we only have 18 kids on our team? And my advice to them is really sit down, have a deep conversation amongst your school board and parents who want to come to the meeting and really decide what is best for the kids.
Right.
Don't think about like your days when you played I played 11-man back in the day. We all did, but it's not about us. It's about the kids now and giving them an opportunity to be able to play a game they love and have an opportunity to have success at that game. And just take yourself out of it and do what's best for the kids. I think that's something people who are contemplating to stay 11-man, 8-man really need to sit down and have that conversation about. And like I said, if they want to talk to me about it, they're more than welcome to get a hold of me. I mean, my email, my phone number's on the school website, and I'll gladly talk to them about it, whoever's thinking about it, and help them in the process. Because in my opinion, the more teams we can get to come down and join our league, the better the league's going to be.
Jay, you were an 11-man guy that went into 8-man as well. You share the same thoughts?
I always joke about it, and when we had that discussion, because people would bring that back and forth like it was a negative, right? And I just, not saying right, wrong, or indifferent, but I'd always look at them and say, well, what's the object? What's the object of high school sports, right? And then until I see a application or anything on your resume that says, did you play 11-man or 8-man, and were you successful? You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
the object is to get as many kids as possible involved in any extracurricular, right? Whether you're a band guy or a football guy or something, but in the fall you offer X amount of activities, right? I think where you lose a school, where you lose identity, is when you don't have people involved in stuff, whether it be fall, winter, and spring.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got to look at how do we get kids involved? How we do it? Well, let's be honest. Nothing's fun. And I was on the 11-man side when I first took over 11-man, and getting throttled. It's running clock in the first half, and you go into a game knowing you have zero opportunity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's different ways to do it, and we'll work harder. It's like, oh, okay, I get that. Run faster, tackle harder. I get it, right? But it's like, how are you setting your kids up for success and failure, and then putting the work in to make them in the best way to be successful, and that's not always winning and losing, right? So you're gonna fight that no matter where you go. But I think at the end of the day, it's knowing what the grand scheme of things is. For me, it was, and we played 11-man, and then I finished 11-man. We did 8-man, and there was no difference in anything. And today this year, in helping out, we were a 3-6 football team. We had a shot every game. In
Mm-hmm.
11-man, we would have had zero shot in any game. And in the 8-man game, with what we have and the kids still are home at a good time. And that's the thing you got to look at. They're all playing, and that's the other thing you look at. Are your kids able to play, and how many are playing? Because if they end up not playing, and let's say you do all the other stuff, then you lose 5, 6, 8 kids, and what are they going to do, right? Because there ain't a ton offered at these schools for sports. So it gives kids an opportunity to play, and guess what? When you're done, nobody cares that much anyways, and you move on to college and work. And I always joke with my son. He went down to Illinois, right? And him and his buddy and that. And I said, well, how many people ask if you played 11-man or 8-man and what your record was in football? Nobody cares, right? Like,
No.
nobody does. Like you what you learn from is your friends and the responsibilities you have. Like the kids that fight, we talked about weight room and that. The kids that fought the excuse making of not showing up to practice or weight room normally still fight showing up to work or showing up to school on their own.
Exactly.
The kids you want to hire aren't the kids that are win a state title or on a 9-0 football team. They're the kids that when you talk to a coach, how were they in the weight room and how were they for practice? The kid didn't miss weight room, he didn't miss practice. Those are the kids you want to hire, right?
Yep.
Like that's where the bigger picture comes about it, and I think that's what get lost because every guy sits down there and my kid won't play 8-man or my kid won't do this. It's like, okay, dude, like get over it.
Yeah.
2025.
Yeah. Exactly.
Watching the 8-man game. I like scoring. Sorry, Cody. I know you're about defense, baby, but I'm about scoring touchdowns, and I like watching touchdowns.
I think that's where
Coach, I think one of the biggest things that I've seen is, and you had touched on it earlier in one of the questions we asked, but in 8-man, you necessarily don't have to move up freshmen and sophomores that aren't ready. And I don't think people understand, it's different in baseball, basketball, volleyball, softball. You can move freshmen and sophomores up that aren't ready. But football, it's not ideal. Let's just call it what it is.
Oh yeah, you're absolutely right. It's a different animal in football. I'm glad you brought that up because going back to our numbers thing, people could see our roster and we have 34 total kids this year, but we dressed 24, and the 10 we didn't dress were freshmen because they're not ready. And
Right.
I'm not going to throw them in a game. Let's say we're up 40 in mop-up duty and still risk the opportunity of them getting hurt. Because I'm just not going to do that to a kid. I never would. And it's like you said, it's just a different animal of football. You got a freshman who's 13, 14 going to go against an 18-year-old. I mean, that's 4 years is a big difference. It is. And, and touching on what Jay said about kids who don't show up and, aren't going to show up to work. It's funny you brought that up. About 6 months ago at my job, there was a couple kids that I used to coach that showed up for an interview, and my boss came up to me and was asking me about them. I said, they're not going to show up to work because they didn't show up to practice. They didn't show up to weight room. They're not going to show up to work.
No,
Right there. Perfect example, Jay, and I'm glad you brought that up because that really did happen about 6-8 months ago. And, and I said, you can't count on these guys to be there. I go, that's all I'm going to say. I go, so you decide what you want to do from here on moving forward, but that's my opinion.
Yeah, I'll be that guy, I guess, sometimes, because that's what I think is looked at more than anything, right? When you graduate, because everybody lives in the moment of we live in what everybody, you focus so much on everybody trying to do everything for their kid, and they got to let them just realize that the main part of it is the responsibility they have of being part of a team and what it takes to be a team, because that team moves into job and supporting for your family. And
Exactly.
I know that sounds, we're talking to 18-year-old Cody who probably doesn't think anything about right now of getting married and having kids, but in a couple years, Cody, you're going to be responsible. And I always tell him, I said, you disappoint on the football field, that's one thing. You disappoint at home, the responsibility is way different, and you got to
Right.
learn. You got to learn from that. We're gonna grow you up today, Cody. But
Hey, Cody, for the younger players coming up in Amboy and into bigger roles next season, what do they need to understand if they want to protect what your class has built these last 4 years at Amboy?
They just got to be ready to work. No one's going to lay down and give it to them just because of what we did, the past 4 years. And especially for the seniors coming up, it's time for them to make their own mark. They got to sketch their own name in history. The last 3 senior classes have done it. And, I know Coach Payne expects the same out of the next class coming up. And for the younger kids, they got a younger guy on the roster this year, Ian Hassler. He's a big kid, dude. He might be the biggest kid on the roster. I'm expecting a lot out of him because, he's a younger guy, but he's big, man. There's going to be no excuses for him coming up.
So
I like it. Cody calling somebody out. I love it. Coach, you got to love it, man.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So Ian Hassler was the one I was going to go to. I mean, he was only a freshman this year. And like you said, Cody, that guy was a ginormous fella there. And one that even the legendary coach Jim Unruh was talking about in the press box with his size and everything that he has. He's got to be in the game plan for next year, right?
Oh, he is. Trust me, he is. Monday I'm going to school and I'm gonna talk to him, about starting to lift here pretty soon. The thing is, Ian is also a really good shot and discus thrower. He won the junior high state championships last year in that. So, we have a lot. We're really excited about Ian. He dressed varsity this year for us. It took him a little bit to kind of get used to the varsity game. Even at his size, it still took him a little bit to get used to it. But at the end of the year, though, he was. I think his confidence got a little bit higher. Obviously, and then in the state game, he had a pretty big quarterback sack for us there. I think Poles right before was it their last scoring drive. I think they had a pretty big quarterback sack, and so we're really excited about Ian. He's a great kid. He works hard, and he's a yes sir, no sir, and if you ever meet his dad's the same way. So obviously we're pretty excited about Ian and the next 3 years having him on our team.
That sack right there is what got everybody in the press box jumping up there like, holy cow, who is that kid? And then we looked at the roster, it's like, he's only a freshman. Holy smokes.
Yeah. Ian's, like I said, that was a big play for us in that part of the game. Even though Polo still scored, but it was still a big play for us.
Right.
It was. You know, I was listening to the going back on the previous conversation. I was listening to the Pat McAfee show from Thursday's episode while I was out blowing out snow out of the driveway so Jay could get over here today. And
Kyle clears me a path. He's a good friend.
yep. And I found this to be very interesting, and it related to what you said about, having kids that weren't showing up, going to job interviews, and how that's going to progress into their professional careers. And the stat was that 95% of women in C-suite or upper level management positions in across the United States come from an athletic background. 60% of them are men. So basically, if you are playing sports, whether it be at college or just have an athletic background to where you want to compete on a regular basis, it leads into your professional life as you have a higher growth potential that way too. And I've always said that about sports because there's people who are like, oh, high school sports don't mean anything, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, actually it does. And the numbers prove it. When you can develop and guide young individuals like Cody into being very athletic, goal oriented, accountable, and putting themselves out in front of people to display what they can do, but then you provide them the leadership capabilities, the ability to go out there and put together a work ethic that defines what champions and legacies are all about. That translates into the professional model of what Cody will be here coming up, to where, you get out there and you continue that ability to want to compete, and it goes into your work life as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree 100% more with that. Like you said, playing sports just teaches you accountability. It teaches you to be on time. It teaches you work ethic. It gives you leadership to where, whatever you go out in the world and do, someday you could be a boss just because you learn those leadership skills playing sports. And, nowadays, like, I didn't know it was down to 60% for males, but, the thing is, kids need to be going out for sports. And I'm not just saying football, whether it's cross country, golf, or whatever it is you want to do. I think kids need to start going out more. And it's almost, I don't know if it's sad or disappointing to say to see the numbers dropping like that, and, 'cause especially nowadays, everyone has those phones they can be on all day long doing their social media stuff but, yeah, I totally agree with all that. Kids need to be active. Kids need to go out. Kids need to be on a team, learn how to be team players. And, I totally agree. Kids need to start going out for any type of sport more as here in the future.
Yeah.
That's why I always tell my son, you're going to be a 3-sport athlete. I go, you may not like one of them, but you're still going to play just because that's just how it is. That's how I was raised. My dad told me you're going out for sport. You're going to play. You may not like it, but it's good. I played basketball. I was on the team in basketball. I didn't say I played, but he said that's going to make you better as a football player and everything else you want to do moving forward. So you're going out for basketball. And I told my son, and which, my son loves football, baseball, basketball. He loves all three. So I don't have to do no argument with him on this. And so I always told him, you're going to be a 3-sport athlete, whether you might not like one sport more than the other, but it's going to help you out in the long run.
Well, I got 2 quick stories. The first one, when you talk about the 3-sport, and I always tell people this because it happened to my own son. He didn't mind baseball, but he hated being in the infield because he didn't like the hot corner or whatever. And that's where, if you're a fairly good athlete, you get put in the infield. He wanted to play outfield, so he didn't want to play baseball one year, and I'm like, well, you're going to play. So he ended up playing all 3. By the end of his senior year, baseball was one of his favorite sports he played. Football was always number 1, and then it was always basketball, and then baseball a far third. So one year in talking with Rune, I'm like, hey, I said, I'm going to have trouble getting him out, but you cannot put him, joking. I'm like, just don't put him in the infield anymore, man. Have him, he loves playing the outfield, and it's always fine. It's always hard trying to find kids to play outfield. Played outfield, loved it, whatever. Baseball became his second. So I always give that thing to kids. I'm like, what you start as your freshman year is your favorite sport. A lot of times will change, just like anything.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing is, Cody, you're a young guy, and you'll be sitting here one day at 47. I just had my birthday, and me and my buddy Willie Guy played football together back in the day, and we still tell the story of our football coach from '95, and it's something that I don't need to look on, have a percentage on it or anything, because you see it and what we've talked about. He came in as I had 4 different football coaches all 4 years. This was my junior year going in. We were picked dead last. He comes in as a football coach, and I've never had anybody like him. And if anybody that was on the team, he was like possibly crazy. But he pushed us to a limit that kids couldn't take. We started like the first day of practice with 42. By the third day, we had 18 kids. Over 20 some kids quit. And I didn't have the option to quit. So it was like, but I love football too. So we're all sitting there, and we got Sterling Newman from the 90s sitting about 2 weeks away. And he brings us all in, and I'll never forget the speech that he gave. And it just involved things getting tough and quitting. And he goes, when you quit one thing, it makes the second time you quit easier. And he said, and then he went on, like, as a kid, you're like not thinking anything of it. He goes, once you quit on your team, you'll quit on your school. Once you quit on your school, you'll quit on your wife. And then we're all like, your wife? We're not, like, we don't have a girlfriend. Where's he going? But he just went on this like 10-minute speech of when times get tough and you find that you're just going to quit, those things will get you the rest of your life, to where you'll just find it easy to quit once you've quit before. And he goes, trust me, it's going to be tough, but at the end of the year, you're going to be satisfied with it. And we went from a team that was picked to win like no games to one, because back then they give in the paper like projections of teams to win. And we were like 0-9, 0-9, 1-8, 1-8 by like all the people. We finished 7-2, finished second in the conference, and like shocked everybody. But it was just like, he had us locked in every game, and he pushed us to a point where we thought I always joke, you think you're going to die, but you're not going to die. And you get pushed to that limit. And once you've done it and got to that point, you realize how much more you can unlock of yourself. And that's the biggest thing that you want to see out of kids. And 47 today, and I was 17 back then. And it's like, you still remember and take those lessons from football back then. And that's what's so cool about it, is you use that to everything. And a lot of those things, when kids quit and you see it. They have a hard time showing up or making excuses, or when you get to college and there's nobody cares if you show up or not. They're going to get their money no matter what. It's like, you gotta be able to get up and go to class yourself. So that's my 2 great stories there, Cody, that you can in 30, 40 years you can tell somebody.
All righty.
So Cody, do you have any plans of what's lying ahead for you? Or have you not thought that far ahead yet?
Yeah, I'm gonna enroll in a trade school to become an electrician.
There you go.
Electricians. Yeah, I'll leave those jokes out. I'm a sheet metal guy, so we make fun of electricians. We work way harder. You want to work harder, you want to get in the sheet metal side, and that's where all the hard workers are.
Either way, it's good for
Yeah.
you, Cody. You have a path and a vision, and that's important.
I love hearing young kids talking about getting into the trades of electrical, plumbing, sheet metal, or pipe fitting. I think when people look at it, and when I wanted to do it back when I graduated, it was kind of looked upon as I don't know, oh my goodness, because everybody said, well, you have to go to college. And then it's like, well, there's nothing I want to do there. This is what I want to do. And, they kind of look at you different. But today, I talk to a lot of the young kids about it, and it's like, you'd be shocked at the opportunities you have with it, and with the retirement and insurance and everything like that. If you haven't, you should look into it. But that's great to hear, Cody.
All right, one
Thank you.
last thing. Bears-Packers games today. Who do you got?
That's the biggest question.
I'm a diehard Bears fan.
Yes.
My heart is telling me the Bears, but my brain is saying
Don't say
Packers by 10. I hate to say that, but I mean, come on. I mean, how many years, past what, 5, 6 years, the Packers have just owned the
Hey, we're
Bears?
1-0 in 2025.
I know, and we
Yeah.
always joke with the Packer fans, it's Williams Field right now until it's, not Lambeau, it's Williams Field. But my heart's telling me the Bears, but, just going from the history is, I don't know. Hey, if I'm wrong, I hope everyone tells me I'm wrong. I would love every minute of it.
I could tell
You know.
Joe's background right now.
Oh,
where
yeah.
he's going, baby.
Oh yeah. Yep. You know it.
I
Can't wait.
I got my McMahon jersey laying on the bar over here, so we're definitely all Bears here, but
Oh, yeah.
I'm a little nervous about today's game. Cody, what's your thoughts, man?
Well, I'm a Panthers fan, so I'm not really, concerned about any of that. But
Sorry about that. Hey, you helped the Bears out. We
Wait,
appreciate it.
you said you're a Panthers fan?
yeah, I'm a Panthers fan. I'm a big Cam Newton guy. That's like my favorite player ever.
So my wife Carrie is a Panthers fan. She's gonna love you forever now.
Oh, Cam Newton.
Oh yeah.
Well, hey, we appreciate having you guys on. We really appreciate you talking about Amboy football. We obviously we're well aware of a lot of the stuff that goes on with your guys' success, but it's great to hear how you guys tune that out, block that out, and we wish you guys continued success as well. Because it is a lot of fun. Me myself, I'm a dynasty type of guy, and you guys are definitely building a dynasty here. At the same time, you guys do it with such great poise. Like you said, Coach, you guys are never out on social media. You never hear anything bad about Amboy, and you guys just quietly go about your business. Me and Joe talked about it, and Jay as well, throughout the course of the year. You guys lost week 1, and then you guys just go off the radar, but you just sit here and take care of business one after another, and it's like nobody hears about them, but they're just quietly taking care of business, doing what they do, and they're going to be there when it matters. And once again, you proved us right, Coach. You proved us right.
Well, thank you guys, and thanks for having me on here, and Cody. And this is always fun to do. And like I said, Kyle, I told you I watch your show every Thursday. Joe, I listen to you every Sunday morning. And it's just great. And Joe, I'm gonna give you some advice. Next time we play polo, don't hesitate to pick polo. Now, nobody is gonna question you from Amboy on that. You're the radio guy. We expect you to take them.
You don't get
Our own radio didn't even pick us to beat you guys down at Monmouth. So don't ever hesitate.
Well,
You're not going to hear no slack from any of us down here.
I know, but I know Powers is listening too, and I don't want him posting any bulletin board material. Joe Merdian said this. I gotta watch what I say.
I'll try to stop him if that next time that happens. I'll tell him don't, because I gave Joe permission to pick polo.
Coach, just kind of like you saying about the Bears. You got to go with your heart sometimes, right? Over your head, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm hoping the Bears pull it out, but no. You guys are great. You guys continue to set an example of what it looks like moving forward, and again, obviously you guys head into 2026, like Joe was saying earlier, is really the favorite to get back there, and I think that'll be one of the things that happens. Can you continue to sustain what you built on? And history says that you will, but obviously, like you said, Coach, there's a lot of things you still got to work on, because it does go into the off-season work. It just doesn't happen automatically because it happened the last 3 years. You got to work for it, and the minute you stop working for it, it's not going to happen.
Absolutely. You can never be satisfied with anything. You can always do better, and that's the message to the kids. Never, ever be satisfied. Always work to do better and strive to be better. And, that's just the message to my players every year, and they listen. And like I said, in Amboy, all the players deserve all the credit in the world for where this program is, because they're the ones that put in the work. They're the ones that show up every day, and they make it really fun to coach here. And I love every minute of being around these guys.
Cody, thanks for getting up early this morning. I know it's hard for high school kids to want to get up early on a Sunday morning, especially to come on and shoot a podcast, but we definitely appreciate you coming on the show as well, man.
No, thank you guys for having me. I mean, I watch you guys every week, so to be on one of these things, I'm probably gonna watch this 100 times. And I love it. I love it.
Well, we really appreciate that. We obviously we're glad that we get a following and able to provide a platform as well to showcase what you guys do uh, as kids playing a sport, because that's where the vision originally came from, was to help people understand what made Northwest Illinois football so awesome and the way it is. And of course, then Jay comes around, he goes, "Hey, we should do this for all sports." And I'd been pitched it before in years past, but Jay really helped me.
I'm a better salesman.
Jay really helped me get the ball rolling, and then watching Joe start up his podcast with Bob and well, it was before Bob really, but it was Patrick and
John.
John, and then Bob filled in after, unfortunately, John passed away. But seeing them build that up as well to give more insight into 8-man football has been awesome. And then I reached out to Joe. I'm like, "Joe, you got to come on this year." He goes, "Absolutely." So very very glad to be able to team up with Joe this year as well. And we've already continued to build that into next year. So very excited. And we definitely appreciate you guys following along.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Wouldn't miss it. And thanks for having me on once again. I truly enjoyed it this morning, just like I enjoyed it 2 years ago when I did it.
Always a pleasure. So that gives you a look at what Amboy football is with Cody Winn and Coach Scott Payne. Myself, Joe, and Jay are going to be back when we return right after this.
Transform your outdoors with Baber Service Company. Landscape design and construction, including retaining walls and patios, mulch and rock beds, seasonal cleanups, and so much more. Serving Joe Davies, Carroll, Stevenson, Winnebago, Whiteside, Ogle, and Lee counties. Enhance your outdoor space with expert craftsmanship and attention to detail. Contact Baber Service Company today at 815-291-6334.
We just got done having a great conversation with Amboy's Scott Payne and Cody Winn, and just having that conversation with them was great to get some more insight into what Amboy has to deal with. Obviously, there's definitely a lot of criticism across about why they play 8-man to why they play 11-man, but it goes back to some of the things like Coach Payne was hitting on. You get some of these kids that are going out for football that are definitely increasing their numbers. One, how would they actually translate to the football field? And two, if they were to go 11-man, do those kids even go out for football? And those are some of the questions that people really need to look at and ask themselves. And of course, you talk about the enrollment stuff, and we didn't cover that on the show. But when you take a look at, Lamoille supplies 3 kids. They only have 60 kids in the whole school. Ohio only has 21 kids in their school and have nobody going out for football. If you take those 2 away, granted, you don't want to take those 2 away if you're Amboy, because at the same time, they're just giving you an opportunity to play football. Because if you got rid of Lamoille and Ohio, where do those kids go to play football at? And it's about having those opportunities. And with success, you're going to see some of that growth at the same time. I think it's a fair question to ask, but at the same time, he touched base on what they are looking at numbers wise and why they're where they're at.
Well, it's a slope that we've talked about. I've talked about. I've been on the other side, and not coming off that. I think numbers and enrollment are 2 different things.
Yeah.
I think you look at a polo at, I think you guys are at 165, Joe, something like that. You're on the 170 mark.
Yeah, 180 this year, but that's the highest we've been in a while.
I
We're usually
think where-
160, 170.
Yeah, I think where they get the other part is they're at the 300 mark. And I think that's the only thing I don't look for 8-man. I never look at numbers with school. Like I'm a small school guy. We all have different views of what small school is, right? Because
Yeah.
we joked about the 4A, 5A, thinking they're small school, but
Correct.
I go by, and my whole thing is the only way I can judge it by isn't by numbers out. It's by enrollment, and I think that's where you get the back and forth to it. But let's just forget about that for the time being and give credit where credit's due, and that's the Amboy staff and players for what they put together this year again, with a state title, and they played like it and ended up being the best team in 8-man, and you can't take that away. Nobody can take that away from them, and they'll just keep moving forward, and they'll be we talked about it already. They're going to be reloaded for next year for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Yeah, Joe, what's your thoughts on everything? Joe.
Well, I kind of, Coach Payne kind of touched on it too. And I think we touched on it in one of our other shows. You can talk about the numbers, the enrollments all you want, but you've got to also talk about how hard these kids are still working and the work they're putting in. I think that sometimes gets lost in the shuffle, and that shouldn't happen. These kids are still putting the work in. And Cody Winn, he said it best. He goes, we as players have no control over whether we're 8-man or 11-man. So that it's not, the kids didn't make this decision. So don't bash the kids when it comes to
No,
that stuff.
no, that's the biggest thing. I think when we talk about these things, and we've had different things throughout the years that happen. And I
Right.
think where I have my biggest issue with is if you're talking about a IHSA sport and we make different rules for schools, but it's an IHSA approved, I think that's where you fall into the wrong. I think an 8-man, you can't fault anybody for what they're doing in this case, like you said, in an Amboy, because there's no rule against it. When the rules need to be
Yeah.
applied, if there needs to be rules changed by the board of the 8-man and what they feel they want their product to look like going forward. And if that
Right.
is
Yeah.
if that is everybody can play but a different number for playoffs, if it is just a number thing or anything like that, but that it will come to a point though, Joe, I think you guys can agree. It's going to come to a point where you're going to have to make that decision.
Right.
Because
Right. I agree.
you have way bigger schools talking and the whispers of coming to 8-man. And now when you get a 400 kid school, a 350 kid school with X amount of kids playing against these smaller schools, what do you want your product to look like, and what is 8-man supposed to look like? Do you want more teams, or are you trying to sustain the small school side of it? Because you're going to get to a point to where those rules are going to need to be in place. And like I will say, if it is a rule by the 8-man and they allow it, you can't complain about it, and don't hold that against the school and kids for doing it. I mean,
No.
I just think that
Right.
that's weak. Just like when I've said stuff for rules and what applies for schools that are part of the IHSA. Don't be mad at these schools or do it. You can think, but where it needs to change is at the administration level. In the 8-man side, that board needs to look at their product moving forward and what they're going to want to do, because it's going to change in the next 4 or 5 years. Because a lot of
Right. Yeah.
times schools don't look at numbers. I mean, that's the thing that you can sit behind, right? Nobody can get mad at you if you say, well, it's about numbers and safety of our kids. And you want our kids to be safe, don't you, Joe? You
Yes.
can't go against that. Well,
Right.
no, I want your kids not to be safe, and I want them, you know what I mean? So
Right.
you use that, right? In a way of like you can't go against it, but in the sense of what you want it to be, we need to find out what it needs to be, because what also isn't safe is a small school in 8-man with 20 kids, and you're bringing a 40, 50 kid roster. It's the same thing you fought in 11-man
Right.
Right.
of why you
Yeah.
went to 8-man.
Right. I think one of the main things, Jay, you kind of touched on there is, to this point, Amboy or nobody else has broken any rules at all.
No,
I think sometimes, again, people get this thought in their head that Amboy's breaking all these rules, and they haven't broke any rules yet. So
no. Rules are the
You
rules.
know,
They follow
they
every
are
rule.
well within the rules, just like everybody else that's playing 8-man. So, but to your point, Jay, yeah, you get some more teams in this thing, and I think eventually some more teams are going to join, and let's say you get up to 40 teams. Do you make it 2 classes, or do you or do you not let everybody in the playoffs? Or at some point they'll have to have some big conversations there in the 8-man administration. But I think it's like everything else. It's just a year at a time, and they make the changes when they see them necessary.
Yeah, because you go to it and then you could say, okay, well, we'll let everybody in, but only X amount can go to the playoffs, and then those higher schools are going to be mad about that. And then it's like, okay, well, what part is it? Is it about the safety of your kids and getting them to play football, or is it about a chance to be successful? And that's a lot of times what it will also be is, well, we can't win an 11-man, so we'll come to 8-man and we should be successful. Sometimes that happens, sometimes it don't. I mean, sheer numbers of that, you should be successful at some point, but here nor there.
Yeah,
Kyle.
and it's Jay. It's one of those things too, and Kyle, where you may have some of these schools that are even bigger than Amboy's. Maybe a school of 400 kids that traditionally is 1-8 every year, 0-9 every year. Are they thinking about making that move? Because those schools are struggling to get 20 kids out for football at the varsity level, and they're always throwing in freshmen and sophomores that aren't ready. And at some point, that's just not safe for your kids. So there's a lot of different conversations you can have about it.
Well,
So
we saw that back in 2019 with Lake Forest Academy with an enrollment of over 700 kids. They played 8-man
right,
football at that time, and they haven't revived their football program since then either.
right,
Um, they were trying to save their program. Obviously, they weren't playoff eligible had they won the games that they needed to win.
Because there is a number for playoff eligibility.
Correct, which is 325. Somebody on social media was trying to tell me it was 400 because that's what IHSA website says, and it's like, I don't care what IHSA says. The number's always been 325. IHSA doesn't control IHFA. IHFA is its
right.
own thing.
Yeah.
But in speaking to that note, do you think that we would see more teams jump to 8-man football if IHSA took it over, especially from the southern half of the state?
Yeah, and I do think we would see more teams, and I don't know why, Kyle. I don't know why it's that way. I think some of these teams still have, and these administrations still just have this mindset of it's more legit if the IHSA runs it, and I don't know why it's like that, because the 8-man, if you had followed 8-man football and did your research on it, you can tell it's a real good product that they're putting out there every year. And yeah, I've always thought that if IHSA took it over, there'd be more teams. But then again, I don't know if it's the product that it is if IHSA takes it over.
Well, I would.
I don't know what the difference better would be. I think they do a great job with what they do, and they do a lot of things the way that like a common person thinks, with whether it be playoffs and things like
Right.
that. Host a great championship game, and I love the fact, and you've both have said the fact of where it's held. What's great about it, it's a college campus, and you can you fill it pretty good. I
Right.
think the tough thing to look at sometimes is when you go to Illinois and there's like one little section of it. I know you get to play at the stadium, but what's also cool is for that to be at a college stadium, but full and loud.
Yeah.
And they do a great job. If you haven't been there for it, you should make the trip one year, because it's a really cool experience.
Yeah. I mean, we've listened to Coach Lawler talk about it many times. Monmouth College and what Coach Braun and what that staff has done for 8-man football as far as hosting the state championship games has been awesome. Obviously, you guys were just talking to Coach Lawler here last week or 2 weeks ago, and he even stated that, the partnership with Monmouth College has been great. On top of that, he likes the fact that they're playing the games on Friday night because it is unique and it keeps the spirit of Friday night lights alive. even in a state championship game. Me and you, Joe, have talked about that as well, to where, there's no other game typically being played on a Friday night because that's semifinal weekends on the 11-man side, and most of those games are typically played on a Saturday anyway. There was the one exception when it was SHG against Rochester in a Leonard Bowl, and they had played it on a Friday night. But
Right.
outside of that, everybody else is playing on Saturday. So literally the only game going on in the state is the 8-man state championship game, and that in itself brings a lot of interest into that game. And then, like you said, Jay, the environment there, it's just an awesome place to watch a football game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know if the state would take it over. I don't know how many changes they would make to it, guys. I really don't. I don't know if they'd make any. But I do feel like, and I'm not even saying I want to see that, but I do feel like you would get some more teams to join, especially from the southern part of the state for whatever reason.
I think what
But
you'd
that's
be
just my
looking
opinion.
Yeah, I think what you'd be looking at change-wise, obviously you're going to see the seating change because they're going to adopt the seating style that they currently have. So that would be one change, which kind of goes
Right.
against what we really enjoy about 8-man football to begin with, is how they do the seating. They preface not just wins, but head-to-head wins as part of the factor into it. And then, of course, seeding at 1 through 16. So it's literally a statewide seeding rather than north-south split. I think, Jay, to your point, I think people think that they want to go because it's IHSA affiliated, because then you have everything that is going through as far as proposals and everything is getting related to what IHSA proposals are. Whereas in 8-man, I think Coach Lawler's done a great job of getting a committee put together of coaches from around the state to gather different insights and then to help with scheduling and putting things together in that realm as well. Joe?
Yeah, and just to put in perspective, guys, you know, if the bracket this year would have been set by the state the way they do it, Polo and Amboy would have played in the second round of the playoffs, where obviously that was the state championship the way 8-man does the bracket. So take that for whatever it's worth.
And like I was told this by another coach who asked that question to a IHSA person at a conference. Their comment back was, we're not trying to get the two best teams in the state title game. We're just trying to find out who the best team is. And you can have that, there's two different ways of thought. I find no fun in watching you watch the Lee Win game this year and you just kind of like, okay, and you move on, right?
Yeah.
Like, or in a lot of those games, you turn it on, you want to watch it, and it's like, well, this is not worth watching because
Right.
you want to watch a competitive game.
Well, and I saw
At that point of the year, you should never have a running clock in a state championship game.
and I've talked about this in depth, and I saw an argument this week, Ari. It said that the two best teams in 1A were at the state championship. Everyone knows that's BS. That the two best teams were Lena Winslow and Stockton, and it wasn't even close. Like, they were just way up here compared to everybody else. But even had the seedings this year gone 1 through 32, that still would have been a semifinal matchup. It would not have correlated to a state championship matchup. And sometimes that's the break of it, because not always are you going to legitimately get the two best teams at state.
Well, and that's the case. That's the case no matter what, right? Like, you can have that argument. But I think it's like one of those arguments that's going to happen sometimes. But even this year, you felt the two best teams were Milledgeville and Amboy.
Yep.
They met beforehand. But what you got with the number 3 seed, or the whatever seed it would be that would make it to play the one in a polo, it wasn't a running clock and a 40, 50 point win. It was still a game.
It was an awesome game.
A team that can play with them. And when you get the best teams in the top seeds on different sides, you're going to have a more competitive state championship game. And I think that's what everybody kind of wants. Like, it's no fun making that. I mean, except if you're the victor, you don't, you are fine with that drubbing. But if you're watching it in general, it's like, this year was a little better, but last year's state playoff games were,
An atrocity.
Yeah. You watch the kid from Oregon touch the ball twice, and you're like, yeah, and it just went from 1A to 2A to 3A to 4A, and it's like you just don't. I have a hard time watching that.
I think 2A's game was more of a beatdown because of the injuries from what Moreau Forsyth had, because those two teams had met the year before, and actually Chicago Christian kind of flipped the score on that one. But yeah, the rest of them, I mean, had Montini lost to Byron in the second round, I think Byron would have done the exact same thing Montini did. And in that case, where's the debate there? But at the same time, we've also seen where Byron has just built their program to a level that many can't
Well,
compete
and
with.
again, you can't fault that. It's just the
But
process.
Montini in itself had no business being there, and I think that the state did a great job of quickly identifying that this whole 2-year enrollment cycle with the 3-win multiplier process was not actually beneficial at any point. They nixed it. So we went from having 14 teams with the multiplier back up to 44 teams with the multiplier this year. And granted, yes, the Chicago Catholic League still had 7 teams at the state championship games, but it was from 4A to 8A. Now, one thing I have seen, and this is kind of going off topic here, but I want to touch on it just a minute. But if somebody were to propose an open division where you would have a rating system establish who gets placed into that open division, obviously that would be one way where you'd see a lot of these private schools get bumped into that division, and they could compete for a state championship there.
Right.
And you're literally throwing some of your best teams statewide into that, whether it be 4A through 8A, and sometimes maybe even 3A, because I think at one point IC Catholic was in that conversation. And when you look at the final rating systems as it turned out, Byron, I think, was rated number 9 or 10 statewide. Not saying Byron's going to compete with some of those teams. I'm not saying that at all. But
Right.
I think if you add an invite into an open division, that will help decrease that, because one of the arguments is that they need to split publics and privates. I don't agree with that, because not all privates are built the same. And the Chicago Catholic League is just way different from everything else. And obviously we saw it with Althoff last year, where they were able to bring in everybody and their mother out of the St. Louis area to build a juggernaut, just like East St. Louis does, even though they're a public school, but somehow they get kids from across the river into East St. Louis playing for them as well. And I saw a number where the St. Louis area had the most recruiting or transfers, I should say, going on within the high school systems down there,
They got
which is crazy.
They got the most apartment buildings by the sounds of it.
Well, they got something going on, and it's that's not the Illinois side; it's the Missouri side too. I mean, there's just something going on in that whole area that probably needs to be looked at just a little bit closer. But at the same time, people got to bring it up, and they gotta prove it, right?
Well, again, that's why it'd just be easier. A, everybody gets a divider, and then it's fine. Or and B, let everybody have the same rules,
Right.
and then nobody would complain. I think the complaint comes from the double standard of the private schools, getting dividers and that taken away for things that a lot of public schools can't do,
Right.
or accomplish. And it's like you're feeling bad for it, not for how they're penalized during the regular season, but how it's penalized them during the quote unquote playoff. And it's like you have teams that haven't won a regional game or regional in X amount of years, and they get no thing. And I've said that multiple times
Right.
until you're blue in the face. And it's just like if you just gave them a divider and leave them play by their rules, I think it would be less, because they'd all have the divider rather than come up and come down and come up and come down. And we can say like it's fine if you beat them because you feel that way, but when they take away another person's opportunity who doesn't have that opportunity, take those kids away, I think that's where anybody can see the problem. And I like I said, I've been consistent on it to where I just have a problem with it. And it's like it just allow the same rules for public as private get, or give the private the divider because of whether they use it or not. And I've been that person since we've talked or any of us talked. It's like, and it's not a negative thing. It's just like when you play schools that are 200 to 300 and they can pick what kids you want to bring in for your program or whatever. That's not the same as what you have a team like Team X over here that has that. And I think that's where we've seen in our conference the administrators get all pissed off, and that's their way of controlling it.
Right.
Where it's like, well, that's not the way to control it. The way to control it is go to the IHSA and have a voice rather than just try to nix that, this or that. And that's where people try to take it into their own hands rather than fixing the problem. Because I would say the same thing. If you're trying to fix that, well, then you need to fix a lot of things that they know happen that they turn a blind eye to. And that's where it's like it turns into that gray where the change needs to happen at the IHSA level.
Right.
And it has, but we know within 2 or 3 years it's going to change again because everyone's going to complain about what they just did, that it messed them up. But my thing is that when it takes away from a team that maybe it's that 1 or 2 years of that they're going to have a group that comes through and they get, I was talking with Lon about it because they have made it to the game before state and they lost to a couple teams and they're the private, right? And it's like those teams could have made it to state and that you lose to a school because that came down with no divider. And it's just like, yeah, you
Right.
get to that point, which is great, but your girls would have probably made it to state or they beat somebody that should have made it to a super sectional.
Right.
And that's where I have the issue with. But again, I'm not going to say, around here, vote a different way. You need to take that to the HSA and I write my thing every year to them about my feelings and whether it ain't going to change if I say it. They don't care about me.
Right.
But administrators have to do it rather than
Right.
they take it upon themselves that they're going to vote a certain way or make it personal. Or it's like, well, just take it to where it needs to go.
Yep.
And that's the rule makers,
It is.
right?
It is. You're
Right.
correct. That's where it's got to go. And, I agree going back to the original part of the conversation about IFA and being administered by IHSA. I think you would see more teams do that. But at the same time, like Jay said, at some point, I think you're also going to see a lot more Class 1A teams kind of evolve into 8-man football, whether people like it or not.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, watching the state playoffs this year in Class 1A, people are talking about, Lena Winslow. Why don't they get bumped up? Why don't they get success factor? It's like they have an enrollment of 230.
Yeah.
This year's class cutoff was the lowest it's been in the last, I think this was the lowest. Well, it's the lowest it's been in probably 2 years, which was 292.5 this year, and the lowest it's ever been is 292, which was just 2 years ago. Outside of that, the average is like 305 to 308. So the schools, like you hear from Stockton a lot, well, we got an enrollment of 170 and we got to play these schools that have a 300 enrollment. That kind of the same thing that you hear in 8-man football
Mhm.
was already the conversation in 11-man
Yeah.
football.
And that's why teams went from 11-man to 8-man.
Right.
And that's why I said taking a hard look at it because it's the Orangevilles, River Ridges, Milledgevilles, all of those schools left because everybody started leaving 11-man, going to 8-man. So it was either you find a team to go with or you go yourself, right? So you go yourself and you do that. But now if you fight teams that are over 300, well, there's no freaking difference. I mean, here's the thing, because it was like one of those things where we always used to have big small, right?
Yeah.
And Toby Goembesi was one of the head guys for our conference, and he was a big small guy, and he took that up to Wisconsin and was always like that because the one thing you can always control and you have is your enrollment, and that probably for the West Carrolls and that put them in the big, but it kind of protected your small. Well, then they went away from that, and it's like I had no issue getting your ass kicked by Alena. I mean, they're a good football team, and you want to see how you. I mean, for me, I always wanted to play that, right? Like we were playing 11-man football. They're a 230 kid school. they're a 1A team.
So you're
Like,
going to see him.
you're going to see them. So if you get your ass kicked or not, you get your ass kicked or not. The issue is for us was always you're a 1A school and you're playing a 2 or 3A team. Like, you're never going to play those teams ever, right? And that's where, in the 8-man, you look. I mean, what probably should happen is you go from 8 classes to 6, and you'll see a better product, and you may see some teams then go 8-man, because if you lower that, I think some teams still think, if you're in the South, you don't have to. If we're good, we won't have to play anybody like that until the state title game.
Right.
So you're still safe. So I think that's one of the ways they protect it is by not going 1 through 32. Is half the state still has a chance to get to state, if that makes sense.
No, it does make sense.
Yeah, it does.
I just
Nothing 90% of the time is about worrying about other schools or other people. It's normally decisions are based on what's best for our school. And unfortunately that's been the case with a lot of decisions made. Is they're not really worried. I mean, they'll bring up the kids and you're hoping that these administrators worry about the kids and what's best for the kids, but it's normally what's best for their school or schools they have an alliance with.
correct.
Is how it works.
It's
You
never.
know, it's one of those things, guys, where you're not going to make everybody happy, no matter what you do, no matter how many rules you put in place. Somebody's going to have a problem with something, so it's just the way it is.
Yeah, and you look at other thing when people talk about the success factor. At 0 time should Lee win, or a team that wins in 1A or 2A in Illinois have a success factor. They have that in Wisconsin, but it's open enrollment.
Right.
So it's like, yes, that could change in Illinois if you allow the open enrollment or the one kid transfer rule, because you'll see kids legally jump from school to school.
Oh yeah,
because they'll be able to, legally.
We're already starting to see it.
Right. Well, we've seen it, but like I said, how I said it. But when you have that, then it's going to open up another door for that, right? Because now you're able to do those things. So that may change the narrative there. So those are all questions you have to look at. If you allow this, what is it going to do? Because, if you're a team that can't do it now, I mean, you can recruit, you can get kids to come over if you want,
Right.
and they're able to do it in high school, where right now they're not. So that's why they have that up in Wisconsin.
Yep.
And unfortunately, the bad thing that I hate about the success factor is 98% of the time, I would say, that factor isn't penalizing the kids that had the success.
No.
Yeah. It's the next year's group that may not be nearly as good.
Like, they may not near as good, and you win a title or get somewhere for the next 2 years, and you got some younger kids coming through who aren't as talented, and all of a sudden it's like, yeah, sorry, because they won,
You get bumped up.
you're going to get bumped up. And that's why I find I don't even like that, even if it's open enrollment, because it's like, well, they can go anywhere, and it's not my problem.
Yeah, but Jay, it's still like kind of to your point there. That still does no good for the 1 year that, say, Orangeville has that once in a lifetime team, but they lost to a private school in the sectional semi type of situation.
Well,
that doesn't make Orangeville feel any better for that one team they did have, let's say.
That's my 2023 team.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's Kyle's team. That's my basketball team that lost to Rockford Lutheran twice, right? And
right.
I had said I have no problem losing to them if their divider put them in our conference. But you have that where their divider was taken off because they weren't as successful as a whatever, right? Because you didn't win a sectional game.
Yeah.
That's where we go with it. And that was this year's change. Before it was a different year's change. So it's like, you take the opportunity away from 2 of our best teams we have with that. And now it's like, oh, you see, here he goes complaining or crying. It's like, I'd say the same shit if it was any team.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
You know, it's like I have zero problem if it's a problem because Aquin played in it so many years, and their divider put them under.
They were still 1A.
They were still 1A. So
Right.
nobody had an issue with that. The issue I have is when the divider's taken away and they come down from somewhere just because they haven't been as successful. And it's like not successful in the scheme of things, successful in the playoff area. That's where I have the issue. And it's like, I don't know how you argue that. I'm sure there's somebody on the other side that could argue and try to. You're never going. It's like one of those things we can have a conversation, and
Yeah.
I'm never going to change my mind on it because
Yeah.
it's like,
It's the never ending conversation. I mean,
yes, you know. But like I said, nobody felt bad. I mean, you didn't. You had an issue with Aquin because you had an issue with Aquin. You didn't have an issue with Aquin because they were going up and down
right.
through 1A, 2A, 3A. My issue is when let's look at Byron of last year when that team had to lose to Montini in the second
Correct.
round. Okay, so now we're not talking Orangeville. We're not talking anything that I've been a part of. I sat from afar and there's probably something. I thought that was BS.
Yeah,
It's
that's what
BS
wasn't right.
It's
Yeah.
BS for those kids who work their ass off to have to play a team that doesn't play by their rules that got to come down because they didn't win enough football playoff games in X amount of
Right.
years.
Right.
So you took that away from those senior kids who worked their tails off. And yes, you know, they ended up losing and they played a hell of a game. But it's like you took probably a state championship away from a team that deserved it.
Right.
And you know, if that doesn't make you feel for kids and make you feel for that, it's like that's where I've been a stance on and forever. Like I said, for many years, the one team we had around here was Aquin, and it's like they did have the divider and they played by the rule. You know, they didn't go up and down. These teams come up and down and take away.
And that's one of the things. Like Montini, for example, Coach Bukowski coaches the wrestling program, and he's won multiple state championships there too. But now you're looking at a football program that has won state championships in 3A last year, 4A this year, and they have previous state titles in 5A and 6A. They play in the Chicago Catholic League against 7A and 8A schools on a regular basis. They had a couple down years because of the style of programs that they were playing and their numbers weren't there. So they went 3-6 or 4-5, missed the playoffs, didn't get the playoff wins. They drop into 3A. They run amok over everybody. They get bumped up to 4A this year because they get the multiplier reapplied. They're on the 5A bubble again, but because the enrollments for 4A jumped up so high, they dropped into the 4A field. They win state in 4A. And now
again, they had the divider.
Correct.
You know, so it's like
so they were at where they were supposed to be at this year. And now, you know, I heard conversation that they might not get the success factor next year because they've been back-to-back state titles, but one was in 3A and then they got bumped up to 4A this year. So they would have to win it in 4A again in order to get the success factor. If that part is true, that to me is bullshit, because if you go to state in back-to-back years as the rule states, then you should be hit with the success factor either way. I don't care. I like where Montini's at. They've done a great thing as far as what their program does, that they're an elite level program all the time. But like you said, Jay, be fair. Just be fair.
Again, I will reiterate. It's a feeling that I have and many people follow. It's not like I'm going to sit here and hate on the program or kids or what they accomplish. It's a program that's wrong with the IHSA and the rules they have. That's why I've always said there's rules in the IHSA that if you don't like, go to them and write a thing, which I have done, and not complain, but give your thoughts on it and give a reason why, right? It's like there are so many things that there are, and if you don't like it, and that's where I have always said that's where it gets the gray area, because if how it's based on around here, when things come up, it's a vote around with the conference, and it could be an okay thing with the IHSA and not. Go to the IHSA and try to change it. With something like this, it's an IHSA issue of how they see it. And like you said, with the success factor of Montini and 3A, 4A, how does that read? Well, now I know what if you're Montini, how it's going to read. But if you're a 4A team that has worked your ass off, and you got a team, and now you're going to have to fight. I mean, no, you're going to have to see them. What does that do to you?
Oh yeah.
If this is like that one group that has come through that has done it, and that's the issue. So that's our soapbox for the day, Joe.
Yeah.
Yep, we're moving
move
off
on.
we're
We'll move
moving
on.
off the
All
soapbox.
right. Let's move on.
All right, let's take a look at some things that have happened over the past week. We'll start on the wrestling side of things. Obviously, in yesterday's win, Lena Winslow Stockton head coach Kevin Milder collected career win 600. He was one of our guests last year when he was right on the fringe of that number. He gets it here in a good win for the Panther Hawk wrestling program. A great moment there. On top of that, one of his state championship caliber wrestlers, Jeremiah Luke, also collected career win number 100 as in the same day. And we had two other wrestlers from two other programs yesterday also complete that exact same feat. Fulton's Mason Keeble went 4-0 at the Cooper DeJarnett tournament in Sterling. Won all 4 matches by pin, and then was named most outstanding wrestler at the tournament, but also collected his 100th career victory as well. And then West Carroll's Connor Knopp picked up win number 100 for the Thunder as well. So 4 different accomplishments all on the same day across wrestling programs in the NUIC. So awesome day on the wrestling side of things. Taking a look at boys basketball.
West Carroll
had a huge game yesterday. Joe, you got the information on that one?
Well, I do know West Carroll beat Leland by, I think it was about 15. Yes, was it 69-54, I think was the score. But
Yep.
A bigger story there, guys. Roger LeBourne putting up a 40-burger. 40 points from LeBourne in that win, and the Thunder off to a 4-1 start.
Here's the thing I love, because you see it, and I've joked about it. The fake 40, that's a true 40.
Yeah.
You play a tight game and you score 40. That's a legitimate 40 points. So congrats to Roger LeBourne for that, because I kind of joke about sometimes when there's like a 15 to 75 game and a kid scores 30 or 40. It's like, kind of like everybody side eyes each other like, okay, well, that was something. But when you see a 15-point game at the end that was a close game and a kid put up 40, that's a well-earned day.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
And your West Carroll team, who a couple weeks ago you talked about was gonna raise some eyebrows in the boys basketball side.
Yeah, I mean, I said they're going to be a lot better this year, and so far they're winning the games they should win, and that's a start, so that's a nice win for them, off to a 4-1 start. Coach Naples got something going there for the Thunder, I think, this year.
Yeah, the one I was paying attention to last night, and I know you guys were too, was seeing how Dakota would play against Byron, and Dakota had a big win versus Byron, 59-54. That was one of them, along with the Eastland shootout that was going on yesterday. A lot of games going on yesterday, but that was one that you always like to pay attention to, is how a team's going to do against a very good Byron team who has some very good players on their team, but were able to win by 5 yesterday.
Yeah, I think when you take a look at that Lee Winn shootout yesterday, that was a great day for the NUIC. I mean, they pulled in a lot of games from across the a lot of teams from across the state and some across the border. And I'm trying to remember Scales Mound.
Well, the only one
Scales Mound beat Indian Creek by 20.
Okay.
Was that a sweep?
Yeah, it was a complete sweep. So every NUIC team in the Lena Winslow shootout yesterday won their games. Morrison beat Blackhawk. Forreston beat Benton. Scales Mount beat Indian Creek. Lee Winn beat Beecher. Pearl City won over Argyle, and then Dakota won over Byron. So a great day for the NUIC in that shootout. And then you take a look at the Eastland shootout that happened. Obviously, Warren went down to Hinckley Big Rock, but that was a very competitive game there. East Dubuque beat Milledgeville. And then the nightcap was probably the biggest game of all. Eastland, who came in ranked number 6 in state, I'm sorry, 8 in state, against Brown County, who was number 4 in state. Eastland gets the win there in a great game. Parker Krogman had 19 points in that matchup there. So, great output there. Obviously, in Forreston's win, Connor Polich scored 25 points. Kendall Erdman scored 21 points. So, Joe, you were talking about Forreston being a team that's going to be on the rise this year. Coach Robert DeVries picked up his first career win as the head coach at Forreston. So, congratulations to Coach DeVries and, of course, to Forreston getting in the win column. They sit at 1 and 2, so it's still very early, but a very
talented
group
team.
and talented team. Yes.
Kyle, those 2 losses, they lost at Eastland in overtime and lost to Winnebago by 3. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
tough
a
competition.
lot of teams are going to be 1 and 2 coming out of that. Let's be real. This Forreston team is good. They're going to be in the conversation at the end of the season. I have no doubt in my mind. Those are 2 very, very solid losses there for the Cardinals.
Any other insights across boys basketball, Joe, that you're aware of?
I think maybe the only other one that jumps out to me a little bit, guys, is Pecatonica off to an 0-2 start. Now, again, consider the competition. They lost to Winnebago, but a little surprised by the margin there. Winnebago beat them by 20. Then they lost to Rockford Lutheran by 4. So, obviously the competition very, very solid there, but still maybe a little surprised at Pecatonica. Although lost a good group of seniors, got some new guys in key roles there. But still, I don't know if anyone would have thought they'd start 0-2 here.
Well, that's just it. You're looking at like Carter Degner taking over in spots. Cooper Hamilton's getting a starting spot, and I saw he scored like 19 points the other game, or in that game. Lost to who was it that they just lost to?
Lutheran.
Rockford Lutheran.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then they just got to get more familiar with what they're doing. I think Pecatonica will be fine.
Right, I do too.
I think we talked about it. I think a lot of these teams that lose players, whether it be the boys side or the girls side, you'll see when they start playing their best basketball will be after January. Some of the toughest things, and I could say it for myself, that you have when you have a team like a Peck or these other teams that are young and have not played well. The positive part about these tournaments is you play games and you get going right away. The negative part is you play a lot of games early and you have no gym time to find out what you're not good at.
Right.
And sometimes you're playing 3-4 games in 5 days and stuff like that, and it's like you don't have that time. What you don't do great on Monday and you got a game Tuesday, you can't fix for Thursday. To where when you get in the regular season of stuff come January and that, you're playing normally 2 games a week. You'll play a Tuesday, Thursday, maybe a Saturday here and there, but you'll get a couple days after a game to prepare and get ready. And that's where I think you'll see the Pecatonicas and teams like that start rising to where they need to be. And like you said, some of these teams like a Forreston, their first couple games of who they played, many teams would be 1-2 or 2-1 out of it. And you don't schedule them games thinking you're going to go 3-0. You schedule them games to find out what you're not great at, and it gets you ready for the stretch run.
Right.
What else do we have going on? Polo obviously got a win yesterday over Orangeville as well. I believe that was their first game of the year, wasn't it?
Second game. They lost to Oregon Friday night. Tough start there. Oregon's a really good team this year. But yeah, rebounded against Orangeville for a 20-point win. Eli Perez, he led the way with 17 points for the Markles in that one. So, and of course, guys, we got the Forreston tournament right around the corner. We'll be breaking that down a week from today. We'll have first round results from that a week from today. So
probably one of the best tournaments that's still held. Brings a
It's
lot of
going to be
talent.
fun. It's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting to see how those top 4 or 5 seeds work themselves out there, because you got a lot of really good teams there near the top, and even your maybe your next tier teams. Teams are going to be seated in that, say, that 6 to 10 range. Those teams are no pushovers, so it's going to be a fun tournament.
Definitely excited for that one. The Forest and Holiday Tournament's always one of the best in the area, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I remember back in the day going down there all the time. I mean, I remember there was times when teams like Marengo, when they were really good, would come over to this tournament too. So they do a great job of getting good teams into that tournament. And when you come out the champion of that tournament, you know you definitely earned it. Taking a look at girls wrestling real quick. We do have another mention here. Fulton's Kirby Gurman won a tournament here also at the uh, Carson DeJarnett wrestling meet at Sterling yesterday. So she got first place in her weight class as well. So congratulations to Kirby on getting a title there for herself. And, that's one of the things we're starting to really see is the pickup in girls in wrestling, which is it's a lot of fun to see. It kind of goes back to that stat that we were talking about with Coach Payne as well, with the climb of women in athletics, and then where their rise is as far as leadership later in the working world, and how women are going up and men are coming down. It speaks a lot to what we got going on in today's society. And seeing what Kirby's doing here, awesome, great job, congratulations to her on that. Taking a look at the girls side of basketball, we had a lot of big games there. First and foremost, Finley Banks of Dakota collected career steal number 306, which set the new record at Dakota for most steals in a career. And obviously, she's just getting her senior year underway, so she's going to probably set a much larger mark there. So congratulations to Finley on that mark. But one of the biggest matchups that we were talking about was that of Pectonica and Rockford Lutheran. And we were talking last week about Rockford Lutheran, the talent that they have coming back. And Pectonica comes away with a 45-36 win over the Crusaders. A big game there by Cora Naud as well, as she jumped out with 21 points. Riley Alexander had 12 points. Ava Ackerman had 8 points. But even more surprising, they held the duo of Soraya Parker and Danielle Johnson to a combined 21 points in that game as well.
Yeah, I wasn't able to watch it. Was at another game, but my curiosity would be what happened to the other 3 or 4 starters that Rockford Lutheran has. But you talk one about Rockford Lutheran, and a team that will be out of now 1A because of the success factor, but one that is coming down because of the non-success factor. And they played over at Galena yesterday, and that was Rockford Christian, and they've been on a roll, and they were one of Pecatonica's losses this year, and they beat Galena yesterday 57-30. So that's a team to look at in 1A this year that will be coming down at the 1A level. I think a lot when you take those teams out of it, I think what I've seen so far, whether it be boys or girls, I think a lot of teams, more so on the girls' side than the boys' side. I think you have the teams up there that's going to be shocked when a Dakota loses or someone like that. But a lot of teams can beat a lot of teams, and
Right.
you've seen that with. I was watching the Pearl City Stockton girls game, and Stockton ended up coming back and beating them in Pearl City in overtime. But you've seen Pearl City beat a couple teams in their way early this season. So it just a lot of back and forth. And again, I think you get to January, I think some teams will separate themselves. I think, or maybe it's just gonna be one of those years that it's just kind of a crapshoot night in and night out of who's gonna beat who. I know Joe's down at the southern side more with the Eastland, who's played well. Polo, who's been that up and down team we've talked about.
Right.
Amboy, we don't hear a lot about, but they were a team last year that went far in the regional sectionals. Um, So it's like those common teams like that have played well, but also have had some losses that kind of make you look the other way. So a lot of big conference will start heating up in January, but a lot of big Christmas tournaments on the girls' side coming up too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jay, Amboy's they're 2-4, but this past week they lost to Polo by 1 and Eastland by 5.
Right.
So even though they're sitting at 2-4, you look at those two games. That's not a team you're taking lightly.
No.
So
who's your guy down
for sure, in Eastland, off to a 7-1 start here. So they're quietly rolling along here. Are the Lady Cougars? So, and they'll be at the Polo tournament. The likes of Polo and
who'll be at
Hanover
the
River
Polo
Ridge.
tournament?
What's that?
Who's all at the Polo tournament?
Probably your top 3 teams are Polo, Eastland, and River Ridge. Well, it's probably your 3 bigger teams there. Newman had traditionally been in that, but Newman is in the Dixon tournament this year, which is a lot of bigger schools. So that'd be a good test for them. But those are probably your top 3 teams at that Polo tournament.
Well, Newman had a lot of talent on their squad last year that was younger, so they're definitely going to be a team to be reckoned with this year, I feel.
Yeah, and you look at the Newman, you look at that the Polo tournament. You're waiting for the River Ridge Scales Mound girls to flow and be the team that they were thought of. I know at the Pearl City tournament, we'll have a lot of the area teams in Warren and East Dubuque. I'm thinking of some Lee Winn, Orangeville, Warren. I think Indian Creek is a team that's coming up and playing. Oregon, who's been played very well lately, is at that tournament. So I know that gets kicked off this coming Saturday for that. So a lot of holiday tournaments coming up, a lot of games in a short amount of time to get in before the Christmas break.
Yeah, there sure is, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Obviously, like you said, we're kind of seeing a changing of the guards, so to speak, with some of these teams on the girls' side, where Galena's been historically strong. Right now, they have a lot of youth, and they're and it's not like they're playing slug teams either. They're playing good competition, but they're off to a slow start, kind of resembling to what they were last year, though, when we talked about Galena basketball on the girls' side. They started off kind of slow, and then they just started hitting their pace. So, I would expect that they'll start to get things turned around, especially with the talent that they do have there. There's so many good things going on around the conference here that it's hard to keep up with everything, but
it is.
That's why it's nice to have the page, because I can just go to one page and find out what I'm looking for.
But like you said with
That's right.
Amboy, Joe, I mean, Bella Llanos and Alexa McKendry definitely going to be girls that help lead that Clipper team.
Yep.
Trixie Carroll going back out for Eastland, joining the likes of Tatum Grimm and Morgan McCullough. Definitely puts Eastland back on the spot. And of course, our friend Coach Brinker down there doing a great job getting the Eastland girls back to another reputable level that we're used to seeing out of the Cougar girls.
Well, I think when you think of what them being down, I think they've won a conference title the last X amount of years, so it's not like their down has been down.
Right.
But it's like they're going to go into the conference as a favorite and a regional as a favorite, for sure.
And Fulton girls basketball has definitely been off to a good start as well. We don't get a lot of information from them, so I'll have to reach out to Mr. Jeff Parsons, see if he can get me more information on the Fulton girls, because they do a great job there with that. And obviously there's a lot of things that we're going to take a look at over the next few weeks. We're going to finish off we're going to go into next week's show. We're going to talk about Stockton volleyball with Coach Maddie Pontius, and then we're going to have Taylor Haas on there along with Kadra Wright. And as they get ready, as they're already transitioning into the basketball part of things as well. But kind of recap what she's had go on with back-to-back trips to the state championship game
And an early favorite for next year.
and an early favorite for next year. And then we're going to really start jumping gears, getting into the winter sports side of things as well. We're already lining up Dakota head coach Mike Vartelt on the boys side of things, and then we're going to continue with more guests on the winter side of things as we get moving forward. And it's going to be a lot of fun as we continue to bounce back between boys and girls stuff on a weekly basis, trying to bring more coverage and better coverage around the area. And no, I'm excited with where we're going here.
Love it.
There you go. All right, well, that wraps up what we have so far for this week. As Jay just pointed out, stay tuned to our NUIC All Access page, both on Twitter and on Facebook, as we continue to get stuff out there. For coaches that are paying attention, listening, feel free to message me or send me stuff, nuicallaccess@gmail.com. I've had a bunch of people already start reaching out via Messenger. Hey, how do I get you stuff? That's it. nuicallaccess@gmail.com, or just send it to me and we'll definitely get your stuff posted. We want to bring all the attention to all of the sports, which is why Jay and myself started this up in the first place, was to just get more stuff out there for the local people and help some of these schools that don't get good coverage. I mean, some of them aren't in a Rockford area that get the coverage that
I don't even know if you're in Rockford if it's any good.
Well, true. It's gone downhill, but there's some that struggle even more than most with that coverage, and we want to be able to provide that platform to them. So, lots of big things coming up, as we already stated. The Polo Girls Tournament, the Forest and Boys Tournament for the holiday stuff coming up. A lot of big matchups, and then we're going to roll right into conference play here soon as well. So it's going to be very interesting. We'll start getting some of these ratings systems out there to kind of see where teams lie and how they look against each other as well. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And if we can even get more information on a statewide level, we'll start to provide that as well as we dig in. But going to be a ton of fun. Obviously, big games. Get out to those games. Root for your teams. As always, root for the NUIC.